Welcome back to the World Cup Waffle. As always, I'm alongside Matt and Jay for this edition. How are we today, gents?
I'm feeling I'm feeling very good, thank you. I'm glad you asked me how I was because, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling very puzzled and very, very emotional at the moment because so much has happened in the past few weeks in the World Cup, and it's been an absolute roller coaster, hasn't it?
Well, in the sense of the World Cup, it absolutely has, yeah. But I think in general, I'm all right as well. I appreciate you asking, Jacob, at the second time.
As always.
To ask. But yeah, finishing uni for the year is pretty good. And we've got some exciting football to look forward to. The last two games of the World Cup at the time of recording.
Well, unfortunately, it won't be England that find themselves in the semi-finals or the final, courtesy of that defeat to France. But let's have a look back at some of the other games, which I'm sure Jay is just gonna get up for us now. But we said, I think in the last episode, that Morocco might be a dark horse, if I remember correctly. And well, they're certainly living up to that, aren't they? In recent games, anyway.
Definitely, I think that game they had against Portugal was a real test, especially for them because Portugal is such a great team. They've got so many great players, but I think.
Excuse
me.
That was a cough. You can't say excuse me.
Excuse me.
Anyway, go ahead.
As I was saying, I think Portugal are such a great team, but I think Morocco really fought for that game, and especially one man down as well.
Go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Carry on.
one man down in the second half. It's such a big result for them.
Quite a fighting performance, and we will come to that as well. We'll go into a little bit more detail in a few moments. But as always, I have the scores on the doors for everybody. From the knockout rounds, obviously in the last episode of the podcast, we polished off with the group stage, and we offered our analysis on all those games that had happened. At the time of recording, the first semi-final between Argentina and Croatia has already happened. The second semi-final between France and Morocco happens later on today. So we'll start with the round of 16. The first knockout rounds of the 2022 World Cup, and the first game was the Netherlands versus USA, in which the Netherlands dismissed the USA by 3-1. That was followed up by Argentina cutting it slightly fine against Australia and putting an end to my sweepstake, unfortunately, with a 2-1 victory. World Cup holders France followed that up with a 3-1 victory over Poland, and then a game that I assume we all very much enjoyed, England 3, Senegal 0. At least we enjoyed it after the first half hour of pressure or so. But we'll come to that. Brazil put in a stellar performance to defeat South Korea 4-1 in the next game after that, and that was followed up by Japan versus Croatia. Japan quite a surprise package in the round of 16, but they were put out on penalties by 3 goals to 1 on penalties.
Shambolic penalties.
The penalties weren't great, but to be fair, they weren't the worst penalty takers at the World Cup because that game was followed up by Morocco versus Spain.
Wow.
A 0-0 after 120 minutes, and Morocco won 3-0 on penalties, if you remember correctly. Spain doing themselves a severe disservice in the penalty shootout. And the final game of the round of 16 was a smashing victory for Portugal, as you mentioned, such a strong side, 6-1 over Switzerland, a game they ran riot in. Six in the end, yeah.
Ronaldo scored the last one, I think.
No, he didn't. He scored one that was offside.
But there
was a 6 in the end. Not right, it's Guedes that you're thinking of. But we will come to that. Following those round of 16 games, we came to the quarterfinals, and perhaps the upset of the tournament. Croatia won, Brazil won.
Yeah.
After extra time, and Croatia won 4-2 on penalties. That was a game that me and you certainly enjoyed, wasn't it, Jacob?
Yeah, it was a bit of a bizarre one because you could see that Croatia were growing into the game, but you thought that they just ran out of time. The goal almost felt like a sucker punch for all their hard work. They defended Neymar out brilliantly 9 times out of 10 before that, but then the one time they switched off, obviously Neymar got his goal, but then
they kept the fight up. Petkovic. Yeah, they kept the fight going.
Some form of vitch.
Well, that game was then followed up. This was just an excellent day for football. It was last Friday. Croatia won, Brazil won, and then Argentina 2, Netherlands 2. That was a heck of a game as well, with a questionable official. But that is something we can discuss when it comes to another one of the quarterfinals. Morocco 1, Portugal 0. Morocco fighting their way into the semi-final. That was quite the game. That was quite the performance as well. A real testament to their defensive stability.
I've got a question for you about that game. So I was
just before you ask it, last quarter-final game, reluctantly, England won, France 2.
Yeah, well, we'll divert the conversation. To something.
It didn't happen.
No, yeah.
So-
I don't remember that game.
So for the Morocco goal, if you remember correctly, it's a towering header. I think we had this conversation last night.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's poor goalkeeping, or do you think that it's an unbelievable header? There's the question of the day for you.
Well, I think it's a bit of both, really.
Yeah.
I think because...
It's not Hovis.
No, but I think it's tricky to pick out because, I mean...
That joke will never be funny, by the way, Jacob.
It got one laugh in about 7 attempts at
I laughed out of
saying it.
sympathy. But
Yeah.
I think when you ask that kind of question, I think it's difficult because a lot of people perceive it in different ways. I would perceive it as a really great header because I think at the end of the day, he's got up for it. He's done really well to get into that position. It's kind of poor defending in a lot of ways.
I don't know, to be fair, because I feel like the defender, because of the keeper's positioning, he can't actually physically go across to the ball.
As in, he can't challenge his own goalkeeper.
no.
Because
you
even
can't
though,
risk that.
Yeah, because Diaz is almost is the wrong side of. I can't think who's in goal because it's not Jose Sa or Patricio, is it? Is it Lopez?
No, but I can't
Adan?
remember either. Anyway,
Yeah,
Go on.
but the goalkeeper, because of the way that the goalkeepers came for the ball, the defender's got no chance to even challenge for the ball. So
if you're the defender, though, is it not your job to put off En-Nesyri, though?
yeah, but you're not going to wipe out the keeper to get to the ball in that
No,
scenario.
it's not necessarily challenge him for the header, but just stop him jumping as high as he did. Surely stop him.
Yeah,
stop him getting the
that's what I'm
space to
thinking.
be able to leap that
Because
high.
he must have been able to
'Cause
find that
there's-
space.
Yeah, I suppose.
En-Nesyri, as good in the air as he is, he's not a basketball player. He can't jump 7 foot off the floor from a standing start. He has to be, if he is under pressure from Ruben Diaz, he's not going to be able to get the momentum to jump that high and out-jump the
suppose.
goalkeeper, especially the goalkeeper who has the extension of his arms as well.
We're speaking about him as well yesterday, saying that obviously with the World Cup, a lot of big moves seem to materialise in the summer and in this case, it'll probably be January. We'll see a little bit of movement. So he might be a player that a few teams are going to have on their radar. But
That's En-Nesyri, is it?
yeah, but I said yesterday the Japan playmaker Kamada. Is it Kamada? Kamada, sorry, yeah. I thought even because obviously you're a Spurs fan and you know you don't like to mention it, Matt, but he caused you absolute havoc in the Champions League, and
Yeah,
I think
he did, yeah.
so. I think he's one of them players that he'll probably warrant a big move, and he obviously did really well for Japan in this World Cup. But is there any other players that you think now's their time to sort of take their chance?
What, standout players from this
Yeah.
tournament that are probably going to get a big
I
move?
think
Well,
there's loads.
there is certainly one that I want to mention, and it's a goalkeeper. But just before I do mention him, it was Diogo Costa. That's who you were missing.
Diogo Costa.
Diogo.
Porto's Diogo Costa. That was who was in goal
okay.
for Portugal. That's who En-Nesyri out-jumped. But speaking of goalkeepers, the biggest breakout star potentially of this entire tournament has come from between the sticks, and it's Croatia's Livakovic.
Yeah, 100%.
He has had an amazing tournament. He has been incredible in the penalty shootouts, which we know Croatia love from the last World Cup.
Thanks for that.
No, they didn't beat us on penalties.
No.
They beat us
Oh,
off extra
sugar,
time.
yeah, of course they did.
But they did win their other 2 knockout games on the way to the final in 2018 on penalties, and they've beat Brazil on penalties. And who was the other one? I've rattled off the results. I've already forgotten. Japan.
Japan, of
Yeah.
course it was.
Yeah,
Japan
so-
played
No, they
Spain, didn't they?
No, Japan played Spain in the groups.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Croatia have won 2 penalty shootouts in this tournament, 2 penalty shootouts in the last one, and for this one, it's almost entirely on the shoulders of Dominik Livakovic in goal. He is
100%.
he's not
quite
an
young?
he's not an
young.
old
He's-
goalkeeper.
he is young.
I'm not sure what his age
Let
is,
me have
but
a
he's
look.
not old
But
at all.
I think what's so great about him, I mean, we looked at one of his saves in the game last night, but if you watched him in that game, in the Brazil game, Brazil had so many chances, and obviously he was absolutely impeccable in goal.
A lot of them followed the same trend. Brazil went down the left quite often,
Yeah,
obviously
they
with
did, yeah.
Neymar, their strongest player, fair enough. But those moments where Livakovic was one-on-one up against somebody like Neymar, or who else has played up front for Brazil, like Richarlison,
Richarlison,
Anthony,
yeah.
There we go.
brilliant players. How old is he? Go on.
I've managed to finally spell his name after being heavily dyslexic. It came up with someone who played for the same team, but up front. But he's 27, so he's still got about
That's
10 years.
That might be 10 years as a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
It
Like,
depends,
you look
doesn't
at
it?
Hugo Lloris, he's 36.
Yeah.
Manuel Neuer, what's he, 36, 35?
he's around the same sort of
That's what I mean.
age range, isn't he?
Goalkeepers can be at the top level into their late 30s, and if Livakovic plays his cards right, he could be one of those goalkeepers. But yeah, against Brazil, incredible performance. He went 110 minutes or more, about 120.
Bless me.
Excuse you.
Bless me.
Oh dear.
You.
Oh,
Still not quite got over your illness from last week.
Nah, not quite. Still.
But yeah, incredible saves in the Brazil game, and even in the Argentina game, which we watched last night, the semi-final, which is actually a score I didn't mention earlier. Argentina 3, Croatia 0, just to round off all the scoring that's already happened. And okay, yeah, they conceded 3 goals, and that's not like Croatia. They've had a very defensively solid World Cup.
Yeah.
But there were a few, there wasn't a lot he could have done about some of those goals. One of them was a Messi penalty, and one of them was a ball across the face for a tap-in for Alvarez.
So,
as a goalkeeper, there's not a lot you can do about either of those situations. But when it came to the Brazil match, and a few of the reaction saves he made against Argentina for that damage limitation, stellar tournament. He's got nothing to be ashamed of. He can hold his head high. All of Croatia can hold their head high. That's 2 semi-finals in a row at the World Cup for Croatia, who have a population less than that of Kuwait.
do you think though that he'll be disappointed in the manner that he's conceded the penalty? Because we were even debating, weren't we, the fact of was it a penalty, was it not?
Well, they were they were certainly debating it in the studio.
Yes,
Ian Wright and Gary Neville were not happy with Peter Walton, were they?
See, I, the more I watch it, the more I understand why it's been given. I understand.
Give us your referee's perspective.
That's it.
Here we go. I'm the Peter Walton of the podcast.
Yeah, come on, put your black jacket on, and we'll call you a swear word.
You've got to think that the goalkeeper's come rushing off his line. He's not got to the ball, and he's committed himself in that situation. And then, because the ball's been put, we can all agree the attacker's got there first.
Yeah,
Alvarez beat him to it.
Yeah, so Alvarez gets to the ball first. Livakovic has come racing off his line to try, obviously narrow down the angle or win the ball. Does neither, and in actual fact insinuates, I'd say, the contact. In all fairness, I get that Alvarez. It does almost look like Alvarez is sort of used that as a reason to go down, but in fairness to Alvarez, where's he gonna manoeuvre to? You're running at full pelt, aren't you?
Yeah, there was a lot of questions about where could either player have gone in that situation. When you're this close to each other with forward momentum, you're going to collide. But this is another thing I noticed. Peter Walton said that were that an outfield incident, let's say
I was literally about to say that.
So let's say that happened on the halfway line. Somebody commits for a challenge, misses the ball, catches the man. Even if they pull out of that tackle, let's say they miss the ball and then put their studs away, obviously, but they still catch the man. The referee gives a free kick, and that's right. We all know that. But was it a challenge from Livakovic, or was it an attempted save?
Well, I think you've really got to look back to one of the Premier League games that Tottenham played, and that was.
Here we go. Here comes Matt's weekly rant about Tottenham.
No, but the Lloris Callum Wilson incident, which is very, very similar in a lot of ways. I know. Obviously, it was further out of the pitch, but it was the same sort of thing. Callum Wilson got onto the ball quick. Lloris came out rushing. Obviously, contact was made, but it was still a goal. It was a different situation, obviously, because there was no penalty involved. But with that situation, it's a similar thing where the contact was made. It's the goalkeeper who's at fault.
I think it depends whether you look at what Livakovic has done as he's come out to close down the angle for Alvarez. It depends whether you look at that as an attempted save of the ball or an attempted challenge of the man.
I don't think you can classify it as a save, though.
He's tried to, hasn't he? He's not come out to tackle Alvarez. He's come out of his area to block the shot. He's not been able to do that.
It looks like he's in two minds, though, because he's almost starfished in his face, jumped in his face.
Well, that's what you do. You have to narrow down the angle.
But then, as he approaches even closer, he just stops.
Of course he does. He withdraws himself because he knows that if he goes full pelt into Alvarez, there's no argument about whether it's a penalty.
And it could be a possible red card.
It's professional instinct, that, but it's whether or not you see it as an attempted save by Livakovic. He's just tried to come out and block the shot, or he's tried to come out and challenge the man, which I don't think he has. I think it's just a matter of almost inevitability, because the two men were that close with that forward momentum. They're going to collide with one another.
I read something quite interesting, actually, that obviously because of the position of where the foul is, obviously the ball's been put past Livakovic, So in theory, if Alvarez gets there, it's tapping. But it should Lavakovic been sent off, or are we saying double jeopardy means that he shouldn't have got sent off?
Well, personally, I think that what Alvarez did when he got one-on-one, I think rather than try and knock it past and then run onto it, I think he just tried to chip him.
Yeah,
I think he's just not caught it very well because he reaches his foot out and it looks like he tries to just lift it over Lavakovic as he's coming out.
So you say,
which is a nice idea, but I think what that is an attempted shot.
I was going to say, so you're saying he's got the shot away, so
Yeah.
it's not a fact. It's not
Well,
a case of him being denied that chance.
Yeah,
to get
I
a
don't
shot
think
away.
it's like a last man challenge. I think
Okay.
it's just like the contact's been made after the ball's been released, which it is a foul in an outfield scenario, but in this one it's just a little bit contentious.
But
Yes, I suppose it's an orange card, isn't
I think
it?
moving on from that incident, there, you've got to really give a lot of respect to Julian Alvarez, who had a fantastic game last night.
He's had a fantastic tournament.
He's had a brilliant
Is he
tournament.
18 yet? Yeah, obviously Julian Alvarez, a Manchester City youngster.
He's 22.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is.
No, he isn't.
The unprepared
Fair enough. Well, that
think-
podcast
I
is
hope
what we
that-
should call this.
that
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
that baffles me. I'm sure I heard somewhere that he was like significantly younger than all of us.
He's the same age as me.
Yeah, yeah, you're old.
No, you're older than that.
Oh, man.
You're old.
You're
bro.
42.
Get out.
Anyway,
Get out.
well, Julian Alvarez, okay, fair enough, 22 years old. I stand corrected. But he still had a stellar tournament. He's a massive up and coming star for Manchester City, and you are stupid because you said that he should go out on loan.
No.
Off mic.
Yeah,
That was a suggestion.
my only thinking was let's be honest, he's not going to get anywhere near as many opportunities as Haaland's getting.
Well, no, of course not. He is
My
second,
thing-
he is second in command to Haaland, and that's
course
the way
he
it's
is,
going to
but-
stay. But he's still going to play. He's still going to. I reckon he breaks 20 league appearances this year. 100%, because he comes on as a sub. Haaland is on for 70 minutes and scores twice because he gets the opportunities that the likes of De Bruyne and Silva can provide for him. He is the finisher of these moves. And after that, you just give Alvarez, if City are 3-0 up with 20 minutes left, I know Pep doesn't like to change his style.
I was about to say he hates to make a
Pep
substitution.
doesn't like a substitution, but after that, if the game's won, give the kid a goal.
But I think
give the kid 20 minutes and probably a goal when you've got the likes of Kevin De Bruyne feeding you these chances.
I think with
Especially
Alvarez
against
as well.
especially against pants teams. If you're coming up against Forest and you're already 5-0 up, why not give it Alvarez? Give him a go.
Go on, Matt.
I think
what
he's
you were gonna
quite.
say.
I think he's quite an adaptable player as well. I think you could probably play him in the right side or the left side as well. I don't think
Typically
he could
plays
just
through
be-
the middle nowadays, doesn't he?
I
Well,
know he
he's
plays
played
through
up
the
front-
middle,
well,
but I
that's
feel
it.
like he could definitely be
Versatile.
quite versatile.
Well, for Argentina, he's played as part of the front two. He's played
Yeah.
alongside Lionel Messi, which is pretty esteemed company.
Yeah.
And speaking of Messi, this is maybe the last thing we're going to say about Argentina. What
I think
a
probably
tournament.
need to, don't we?
What a tournament. For a 35-year-old, he's still supernatural.
I can't believe it's going to be his last.
Well, yeah,
World Cup
that came
Feels a
out.
bit
That came
emotional,
out.
doesn't it?
That came out this morning. It's officially confirmed that
Nice.
this will be Lionel Messi's last World Cup. I don't know if he's going to retire from Argentina.
No.
After this, maybe again.
Probably might have one
but
final Copa America.
Maybe he'll have one last Copa America. But I think to go to the World Cup final and to be the linchpin of this team as well. He's not been the veteran that's been carried. He is 35 years old. He has been their best player this tournament. He's joint top for the Golden Boot as of last night's goal in the game against Croatia. And let's say Morocco managed to stonewall France in the way they have done Portugal and Spain. If they can keep Mbappe out, I'm backing Messi for the Golden Boot.
100%.
At 35 years old, to be the top scorer and potentially the captain that lifts the World Cup trophy, he might be on for his 8th Ballon d'Or next year. If that happens, it's a very Hollywood fairy tale ending, and he's earned it. To be fair,
Definitely, I think he's such an incredible player, and I mean, I only have top respect for him because he goes out with such. He's quite a humble football player in a lot of respects, and I know people always say the analogy. I know you've said the analogy that Messi's one of them players where maybe doesn't look like he has the build for it, but he just wakes up that good.
Yeah, but whereas
Most of the time.
Ronaldo, I think, works for it.
well,
I
to
think
say
that's the
Messi
difference.
doesn't,
No,
is
no,
a
but
lie.
I mean,
Messi doesn't know,
if you
but-
look at Messi sort of naturally he's naturally
he's a more
born-
gifted
He is,
footballer.
he is a
But-
technically gifted
He is.
player.
It all comes so naturally to him, and he makes it look so easy. If you're 35 years old and you can still duck and weave in between a Croatian stonewall back line, like we saw him in that game taking on 2 and 3 and 4 players at once at that age. To do that, to hold off those the big players as well at Croatia. Messi's 5'7" with growth hormone deficiency.
Holding off like Dejan Lovren and...
That's it,
What a
exactly.
Dejan
Lovren,
That's what I said.
The Liverpool legend.
Well, it's been an incredible tournament, and to win it, that'd just be the fairy tale ending, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
and it'd be very. And part of me wants it to happen as much as I don't like to see Argentina win.
I think as well. I want to give a shout out because we were talking about veterans. I really want to give a shout out to Modric. I think he is an absolutely outstanding player.
Yeah, he's earned it. He's had his critics. There's a lot of people that said he shouldn't have won the Ballon d'Or in 2018, but. Again, at 36, especially after the year he's had with Real Madrid as well, they've obviously won the Champions League earlier on this year.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me again.
Yeah, and he was a significant part of that. At 36 years old, he is still the playmaker of that Real Madrid.
He just pulls
team.
the strings. He's one of them players that he doesn't necessarily need to be the fastest, but by the time he picks up that ball, he knows what he's going to do with it.
And his work rate as well. Like in the game against that's it. Yeah, in the game against Argentina last night, we saw a few times Argentina would break on the counter attack. Who would be the man that's pacing back to try and stop them? 36-year-old Luka Modric winning headers in the area to get rid of that ball. Like fair enough to the guy, and he's not the tallest either. It's not like he's not like he's going to go unchallenged for a header. He's what 5'9", 5'9", 10. Shorter than all of us,
but he has such great work rate for a player of his age who could literally just leave it to maybe some of the youngsters. You know, he gets himself involved. And last night when I saw him, I know Croatia went out, but he had a stellar performance.
He'll get a town or something named after him in Croatia. He earned it, I think.
Modric.
Yeah, he's earned it, I think.
Definitely.
Well, moving on from that game.
Should we move on to the elephant in the room?
Yeah, go on then. We'll discuss. We'll discuss the game that none of us want to discuss.
The game that didn't happen.
Dread it. Run from it.
I think though, if we can look at if we look at the positives, we absolutely dominated them. I think
well, I saw an interview with Declan Rice after the game. Well, at least it wasn't the interview. It was a quote from an interview, and it was. The better team lost, and from an England perspective, it's easy to say he's correct. From a neutral perspective, it might be a bit harder because France took their chances very well. France, we didn't necessarily play France off the field. They were in the match, obviously. We didn't dominate them and lose 2-1, but we really had our chances, and obviously the biggest one fell to your favourite player in the world.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think the issue is You've always got to think, could you do it? And I look at the penalty, and obviously, it's not a great penalty, but you've always got to think, if I was in that situation, I would be bricking it. I would not be able to put a penalty away in that situation with so much on the line, and it makes you think to yourself,
where was Paul Pogba?
You really got to ask yourself, where's Paul Pogba in all this?
Get out, Graham.
But you set me up for
Who invited Graham?
Yeah, but I think. It's such a difficult situation. I've got to say, even though we lost, I think we played so well. I think we played with pride, passion, and I think I feel the proudest I've ever been of England at the moment.
One thing we can look forward to now is looking at how Southgate set up in that tournament. That even if he's not the man that's in charge in 4 years' time for the next tournament, well, the next World Cup,
2 years' time for the next tournament.
But I think we can generally feel very confident that we can do well.
Definitely.
Because you look at some of the players that are gonna probably retire from international duty. It's not like a case of like Croatia or Argentina where they're losing like the big names.
We're not going to lose our old guard between now.
No, exactly. We're gonna be able to retain the talent and the talent pool that we've got. We can call upon any player, and it's not a case of it making the side weaker either.
No. I saw something recently. It was talking about the young players that England have right now. At the time of the next World Cup, 2026, it's going to be the North America one. Bellingham is going to be 22. That's it.
That's crazy.
Foden's going to be 26. Rice is going to be like 28. Like, these players have still got a lot of time
Maddison
left
as
to...
well.
Madison, well, I mean, he's not as young as the rest.
Here we go. I'm gonna.
Here we go.
Here we
Googling
go.
more ages.
26, I think.
But
This is like the quiz already.
those players are going
Madison
to... Like,
Beer. No.
Rashford's going to be 29.
Yeah.
Like, these are going to be...
hitting his prime, hopefully.
That's it. Like, the players are going to be right there in the prime of their careers, and between now and then they're only going to mature and improve.
He's 26,
Well,
he's
ideally
26.
anyway. He's 26 now, so he'll be 30
so.
at the time of the next
I
one.
think one of the real standout players for this tournament has got to be Jude Bellingham. I think he's such a vocal and he reads the game so well. When you see him in these press talks, he has the voice of a leader, and you can almost see that in him straight away. And I think if I was a kid right now, I would definitely be looking up to players like him.
He's an inspiration. He's potentially I'd say potentially probably a future captain as well. He conducts the midfield really well, and all of that at 19. He's younger than all of us.
Crazy.
That makes me feel a bit sick. I won't lie. It makes me
feel
it
old.
makes me a bit scared to see a player like him, age 19. He was a better footballer at like 14 than I ever will be. Like,
Do you think he earns a big summer move then, or do you think he goes in January?
oh, where's he going to go,
Absolutely.
Jacob?
I haven't got the shirt on today. But
Real Madrid.
No, you've not.
I
No,
don't think he goes to
Real
Madrid,
Madrid, yeah.
because they've already got Camavinga and.
I don't think he goes to Real Madrid because I want him to come to Liverpool.
Well, I'm trying to give
No,
myself
but
some hope.
I think back to the question. I think he absolutely deserves a big move. I think he deserves a big move to a big club who obviously are looking for that kind of player, because he's a future captain. I don't care what people say. He's a bright, clever player.
Whether it is to Liverpool or whether it's not.
Well, we do need to think about our midfield for the future, because I think I've already said to you guys off air that I think we're looking at Enzo Fernandez, who's obviously had a pretty impressive tournament as well for Argentina.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'd be content with just the one midfielder.
You're gonna sign Sofiane Amrabat. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Adel Tarat as well.
Adel Tarat. Where's
Adel
that come
Tarat.
from? Goodness me! What is it? 2010.
Oh, he was such a baller.
Anyway, this isn't
Yeah,
this
okay.
isn't the this isn't the Streets Won't Forget podcast. Speaking of Morocco, I think we have to talk about them. You mentioned at the top of this podcast, we discussed them as potentially being the dark horse. It came up in conversation on the last episode. Well, victories over Spain on penalties, and Spain who embarrassed themselves in the penalty shootout, and a 1-0 solid defensive display over Portugal, and they are the first African team ever to make a World Cup semi-final. There's not much more you can say about that.
They didn't look like conceding. That was the weird thing, that for all their attacking prowess that Portugal possess with Ronaldo, Bernardo Silva, I don't think Diogo Jota's gone. I think he's still injured.
Bruno Fernandes. Gonzalo Guedes.
Exactly. We're pulling off world-class players here, and Morocco made them look like Qatar.
Just didn't give them anything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they made them look like Qatar, but they didn't.
Not
give
like
them
that
anything.
extreme, but like footballing wise.
They didn't give them anything at all. They didn't give them a single bite of the cherry, and that's been their plan. That's the way they've set up. Like, obviously, it's been bounced around quite a lot that the only goal they've conceded in this World Cup is an own goal. I think, is that the only one, or is that the only one from open
Spain,
play?
didn't they?
No, because it was 0-0.
0-0.
It was 0-0.
Yeah, and they didn't even concede a penalty. They didn't even concede a penalty against Spain.
Let me have a book.
Go on. I can't remember if it's from open play they've only conceded an own goal, or just in general if they've conceded an own goal.
I think a lot of teams, especially
I'm going to
because
search this up.
when you look at some of the teams that Morocco have played, they've played some really good teams. And I think one of the problems is most of the teams have probably underestimated them. But when you narrow it down, they have some quality players.
I saw a video that was talking about the percentage chances of all the teams that qualified for the last 16, the percentage chances of their qualification. Morocco were fourth with the lowest percentage, the fourth lowest out of all the teams that did go through to the last 16. So that's not including your Qatars and your Saudi Arabias. But it is including, I think the teams below them were Australia, South Korea and Japan, and that was more draws because Japan were the lowest in a group with Spain and Germany, and they ended up winning that group.
Yeah.
Morocco obviously won their group and sent Belgium home in the process, didn't they? Am I right with that? Or was that Japan that sent Belgium home?
Japan sent Belgium home.
Japan sent
No,
Japan sent Germany
Morocco
home.
sent-
Morocco sent Belgium home. Japan sent Germany home in the group stages.
what a group that was.
But yeah, Morocco winning their group, only conceding an own goal from open play,
That'll be the first question. of
not
the week.
conceding a single goal in the knockout rounds, including penalty shootouts, and they made the semi-final of the World Cup, and they're the first African team ever to do so.
for good value as well.
And
it's not a case of us sitting here saying they've rode their luck and somehow they found themselves.
No,
in
they
that
haven't.
situation.
And they've earned it as well. They haven't fluked it.
Well, the hardest thing is when you go down to 10 men, like you touched on earlier, the fact that they've gone down to 10 men and they've defended that for that long.
That's against Portugal, that, yeah.
Yeah, and all you need... In some ways, though, I've always believed the old saying that when you go down to 10 men, sometimes you do generally play better. I've seen it numerous times from.
Is that because you always send off players when you do reffing?
Not by choice. Not by choice. Can't be bothered with the paperwork. Can't be bothered trying to spell the name on the system.
Have fun with En Naziri.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know where to start with that one.
Anyway, go on.
But I generally think in this case, when they've gone down to 10 men, they generally have actually played better because they've been more cohesive. They've restricted Portugal in terms of the wide areas that quickly surrounded them, and they've just defended for their lives. Not defended for their lives because I feel like that's probably.
Well, they have defended for their lives.
No, because I think if we're saying that,
it sounds like they're scrambling a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say it almost sounds like we're doing them a disservice in regards that we're not taking into account.
In all respects, though, you've got to think that in some ways they will be because it's a massive tournament and they want to win. You know,
well, yeah,
and that's the same.
I think they do,
and that's the same with any team.
It sounds silly to say. You wouldn't like if you'd spoken to a Morocco fan pre to this tournament, would you have? And you'd said, how do you reckon you'll do? They'd have been like, I just hope we give like Belgium a good game, and if we finish third, we finish third in the group.
Yeah.
Now they're literally on the cusp of the final. They are one game away from the final.
Yeah, and it's massive for them, and I really hope that they go through, and I hope they win it. Yeah,
well, look,
that'd be great.
Look, I love an underdog story. That might be the biggest of all time. That might even make Leicester's Premier League win look easy.
Because if they go through the tournament, right, and they don't concede any more goals, that means they've won the World Cup conceding one goal.
Could you imagine
the World
Which
Cup.
Although
could be,
they do have their toughest test next.
of course, yeah, which is France.
France. It could have been us. It wasn't. Shame. But yeah, it's France up next. It's the joint top scorer in the tournament in Kylian Mbappe. It's the all-time record goal scorer for France in Olivier Giroud. They've had a stellar tournament. They look like the defending world champions. And, Croatia have had a bit of a fairy tale run. They knocked out Brazil on penalties. Nobody saw that coming.
No.
But Argentina made them... Argentina's win on paper was predictable.
Yeah.
On paper, France against Morocco, you'd back a 5-0 win or something for France. I really hope that doesn't happen.
Before this tournament, you would.
Well, maybe, yeah, but even still now on paper, like you probably still back a France quite a significant victory. I hope that doesn't happen. I'd love to see Morocco really give them a fight in the way that we did. But I guess we'll have to see.
I saw a weird conspiracy theory. So.
Oh no!
This is going to This is going to sound awful.
No, when Spain won the 2010 World Cup,
right?
Juan Mata was wearing number 10 at Chelsea, and obviously he was in the squad.
Okay.
When Germany won the World Cup in 2014, Andre Schürrle was part of the squad, and he was wearing number 14.
This is Chelsea side.
Okay, yeah. So and then France in 2018,
who wore number 18?
Giroud.
Yeah.
And 2022, Morocco, Hakim Ziyech wears number 22. So it goes up in fours every time.
God.
Who has taken the time to work that out?
Come on.
Who has that much time on their hands to figure that out? I've not seen that.
I've seen that, yeah.
That's quite creative.
That's quite creative.
That's one of those like Illuminati confirmed.
Literally.
Very much like that's one of the videos.
Freaky.
That's one of the videos with the text to speech over it. Like where they link they somehow link random stuff to each other. Like that's like somebody's just pressed like
Illuminati.
That's like somebody's pressed next page on Wikipedia
That is
15 times.
World Cup theory of the day.
There you go. Yeah. So whoever wears number 26 for Chelsea in 20, it's currently Koulibaly. So back Senegal in 2026, guys.
I need to get up a quiz, do I?
No.
I don't think you need to do that
I
at all.
think we need to talk about how good France have been. Unfortunately.
No, it just pains me to speak about.
It is unfortunate, but watching them in this World Cup, I feel like I've seen every game that they've played. I can't remember one that I've missed of theirs, and I don't think I saw them play Poland. To be fair, I've seen the highlights from it.
I think there's one cracking bloke you can kind of pick out of that team, and that's that Kylian Mbappe guy.
He looks alright.
He looks okay. He does.
We kept him quiet, didn't we?
Well, we did, yeah, but we
yes.
have the antidote in Kyle Walker, somebody who's quick, physically bigger than Mbappe. Like Walker is a great antidote.
Not every team has a Kyle Walker. So with Hakimi,
yeah. Hakimi's a very attacking-minded right back. He's
like Trent, isn't he? But I think more defensively solid.
Yes, he is certainly more defensively solid than Trent, but he is a very attacking-minded player, and I don't think he's quite as.
But he does also play for PSG, so maybe the fact that he plays for PSG and he
knows his secrets
with Mbappe, maybe he knows a thing or two of how to.
But they do operate on opposite sides.
I'm pretty sure
they do, yeah.
So, there've been people keeping track of like players' top speeds throughout this World Cup, like when they've been sprinting at full pelt, and I'm pretty sure Mbappe and Hakimi have been tied, like exactly with the amount of, like with how many miles per hour they were running.
I feel like every time. France have broken that defence, I feel like all you can see is just a man just running full pelt across the pitch and no one actually can catch him. And it's
like you blink and he goes from 30 yards from goal to 5 yards.
It's absolutely crazy. It's like magic. It's almost like you look away and you look back and he's there, he's running. Like he's passed.
You can't help but watch him smile when he goes full sprint because it's just it's like watching the old like Looney Tunes cartoons. You know, the Roadrunner.
Yeah.
Like, meet me. And he's
literally
just gone, isn't he?
You look back and he's got, like you say.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you said this, I think, last week, Jacob, that once, like, you figured out what he's going to do, he's already 3 steps ahead of you. Because he's that quick, he's just gone. Like,
well, at one point, he outpaced Kyle Walker, and he's not exactly the slowest.
No, not at all.
He's probably the quickest right back at the World Cup, except Hakimi.
I think it's exceptional, really, for Kyle Walker because he's not a young bloke, but I mean, he's still got it. He's very quick.
He has still got it. Absolutely.
He done quite sharp, to be fair. I think he
should have stayed at Spurs, but
no, they had Kyle Walker Peters as a
like
the Wish version of Kyle Walker.
Anyway, well, speaking of obviously France knocking out England, unfortunately, in the previous round. What did we think of the referee from that game?
I think the less said the better because I can't be getting into controversy.
Well, that's it. I think it's easy to sit here as 3 England fans and say that the referee had a rubbish game and that he shouldn't referee again at the tournament. From a neutral perspective, I think we are not biased enough. We can have the perspective to say that, neutrals would look at that game and think some of them decisions weren't great. Like, ultimately, to say he was against us or anything is wrong. We got 2 penalties in the game.
I was about to say, it seems weird that we're sitting here potentially discussing.
Well, I'm not saying he was biased against us. Obviously.
But I think it feels weird saying that the referees had a poor game considering we got 2 penalties. Granted, well, I suppose we only got 1 and then the second one was gifted to us via VAR. But
the referee still has to go over and make that decision. And normally when they do go to the monitor, they always overturn whatever their original decision was.
At the end of the day, I think the referee's motivation in that game was to try and keep the game going because I think there was so many niggly little challenges and so many things that happened. If he pulls back for every challenge, just imagine how long that game probably could have lasted.
Added time's been ridiculous already. Well, there'd have been about 15 minutes at the end of that game.
I think he just wants to keep it flowing.
Yeah, I was going to say, one thing he did, I suppose, okay or adequately, was he did let the game flow quite naturally. But then at times... It's a double-edged
sword.
There you go. Well done.
Where if the referee's blown up every 5 seconds, but given the fouls, then you're complaining that he's not let the game flow. But then if he
doesn't give the foul,
exactly.
You can't win as a referee. You can never win. In
You're always going to make 11 people happy on the pitch and 11 people unhappy on the pitch, and it's about getting that equilibrium point where it doesn't pass into 12 and.
I was going to say you never ever going to make 22 players on that pitch happy as a referee.
I think for what was given, and I know there's been so much controversial for what he did give and what was given. I think you can only really say it was fair.
A lot of it, I think, was correct. It was contentious, but I think correct. Like he didn't give that. There was a foul on Saka in the build up to the France goal.
Yeah,
I think. I don't want to clutch at straws as an England fan. At the time, obviously, I was shouting at the screen for a foul. I'd see why he let it go. It was one of those, like, on another day he could have given it. But it's one of them you've got to give instantly. You can't VAR that kind of thing.
And plus, a lot of people were trying to accuse him of that said we should have had an earlier penalty where Upamecano
was it in the area?
I don't think it was in the area.
I think because the challenge begins.
When I saw the challenge,
you can
I said
very clearly see that the challenge begins outside the area. I know it's whether or not it carries on into the area.
But you can't. You've got to give it for the initial contact, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the foul begins to be committed when Kane is comfortably outside the box on the other side of that 18-yard line, and I think. Well, I mean, we know that this referee may ref again. There's a chance he can get the final.
That'd be interesting.
Well, not so much for the referee from the Argentina-Netherlands game, which me and you watched at home.
I'll tell you what, I was gonna have a bet on yellow cards. I just had a feeling. 3 players.
So how many were booked in the end? Was it like 14, 15?
Yeah, it was 14 with the coach.
14 yellow cards, including one for was it the Argentina manager or the Netherlands manager? It wasn't Louis van Gaal, it was Scaloni, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Scaloni.
Scaloni, the Argentina manager, and 13 players on the pitch all received yellow cards. It was a dirty game. The referee really lost control of it.
I didn't actually think it was that dirty. I think the referees heightened the game more than anything. I don't think there was anything like you think. There's 14 yellow cards in that game.
Well,
I think if
a lot of them were for whinging. To be fair, a lot of them were for dissent.
But it was because it was that type of game, though, wasn't it? Where it's fine margins and every challenge matters. You think about how important that free kick was in the dying embers.
I love that free kick so much.
It was a clever free kick.
That second
nobody
goal from
saw
White
that coming.
That second goal from White Wake Horse, I was laughing for about 5 minutes after that free kick. It's so cheeky. Yes. Like it's Gakpo and I think and who was the other guy standing and Berghaus standing over this free kick. It's about 20 yards from goal. You best bet like every 99% of players in the world shoot in that scenario.
Yeah.
And instead, Gakpo just or Berghaus, whoever took it with the right, I think it was Gakpo, rolls it off.
Let's have a look.
Weghorst turns and rolls it in. It's like the best worst goal I've seen for a long time.
It's so cheeky.
It's really clever because, as I say, not one person saw it coming. Certainly no Argentina players. None of the Argentina coaching staff. Nobody in the stands. Nobody in the studio. None of us watching at home saw that goal coming. And it's just the cheekiest little thing in the world. I think it's had the Netherlands won that game. Eventually, they lost on penalties. Had the Netherlands won that game, I think that'd be up there with the corner taken quickly Origi.
Nothing will ever top that.
In terms of, well, let's say Netherlands have won that game and got to the World Cup semi-final. That's up there. That's one of those moments that you remember.
I'll tell you what, I just remember being at work for that Divock Origi goal.
We're not doing this. We keep going on tangents. No. I'm not letting you start because this is about
flashbacks.
This is about Liverpool.
This is not Champions League waffle.
I'm not going to let you start. This is you because you're going to go on about Liverpool.
I say we continue it without him. Yeah. So, welcome back, everyone. We've lost someone, but oh well.
And by lost, we mean kicked out. Go and shut that door quickly. He's not got his ID, to be fair. We can show him out. He can't beep himself back in because he doesn't have his card.
Oh, God. Should I?
No.
Before we got interrupted with the Champions League waffle, let's get back to the actual World Cup waffle.
There you go.
Back on track.
Exactly. Yeah.
Should we have our predictions for the rest of the tournament because there's not many games left?
There's 3 games left if you want to think about it in detail. We've got the final.
Is there?
Yes. So
we've got one tonight, mate.
Yeah, one tonight.
Is there in there?
Well, we've got. I know which one you're forgetting.
The third place.
They are. So we're.
That's such a that must.
It is a bit of a pointless
it's
game,
but it's such like a gut. It's like a punch in the gut, isn't it?
Well, there's 3 places on the podium. Somebody's got to take that last one. That's
like the
but it's just like so
Exactly.
pointless. Like, who wants to go? Yeah, we came third in the World Cup.
Who doesn't want to say they come third in the World Cup?
Put it this way: if Morocco lose tonight against France, they're going to want to say they came third in
Yeah,
the World
definitely.
Cup. They're going to give Croatia a game and a half.
Yeah, I suppose.
Anyway, so 3 games left in the tournament. Tonight, France, Morocco. Score predictions, anybody?
I think this could be. I just don't see this being a high scoring game. I think France do edge it for me, just because of the talent that they possess. But you wouldn't at all be surprised if there's a cup upset. I'm gonna say 1-0. I think
1-0 to France.
I agree.
I just think that Morocco defensively they've looked sound. Don't get me wrong, there can be like freak days like yesterday with Croatia where they've just sort of like not capitulated but sort of defended completely differently to how they had before that. So I think I just see a small scoreline. I say 1-0, and I think I'm going to say I reckon it'll be Giroud to score.
I reckon the same. I think when you look at the game against Portugal, obviously Portugal before that had beat Switzerland 6-1, which is a pretty outstanding result against what you can say a good Switzerland team.
Switzerland aren't terrible. They
they're
got
not a
out of
bad
their
team
group,
at all.
obviously. Yeah, no.
And I mean, for Morocco to beat them 1-0 with a man down in the second half, I think it really shows how strong that team is. And I think although France might edge it because France, technically might have a better team, I think Morocco are really going to give them a challenge.
I'd love to agree with you, but watching the game last night, with Croatia being as defensively solid as they've been throughout this tournament and Argentina putting them to the sword, I can see France struggling to get the first goal, but once they do, I think not necessarily
they'll be ruthless.
No, I don't think it'll be like something like 5 or 6. I'm thinking 3.
Yeah,
because I think it'll be a goal. I think it'll be a scrappy goal that gives them the lead. It'll be a corner. Giroud or Upamecano will get up for it. But once they've got the first goal, they'll start flowing with the game, and I can see Mbappe scoring at least once. So I'm going to back 3-0.
But of course, the World Cup is always full of surprises. You can never predict these things.
Well, certainly this one has been. Yeah, Morocco and Croatia have shocked the world. Actually, just before I do mention this, before we go on to the final and the third place predictions, I saw something that made me laugh. I think it was on Sport Bible, so pinch of salt. But it was Samuel.
Must be true.
Yeah, well there you go. Yeah.
Wow.
But it was Samuel Eto'o's World Cup predictions. Samuel Eto'o, obviously a legend of African football, former Barcelona striker, etc. In his World Cup predictions, he had backed every single African and Asian team to go as far as possible in the tournament.
Fair
I'm
enough.
talking to the point where Qatar played England in the last 16 and won. That's the kind of predictions we're dealing with here. But he may be the only person in the world to have accurately predicted France versus Morocco in the World Cup semi-final. He got that right.
That's pretty.
He put France incredible. And he backed Morocco to win and face his own country of Cameroon in the final and lose. I appreciate the, it's funny to see the sort of self-confidence in your own nation for Eto'o as a Cameroonian. They didn't make it out of the groups, obviously, but Morocco have shocked the world. I do think this is the end of their fairy tale. I think they'll go into the third place game against Croatia. In a World Cup final between Argentina and France, boys, who are you backing and scoreline?
Ooh,
I'd love to say that it's going to go to penalties. I really hope it.
that would be amazing.
It's one of them games that you literally could call it either way. I know it's so obvious to say that, but the talent that both parties possess in the front line it just can't be ignored. It's almost going to be the battle of the old versus the new.
It is going to. I was thinking that it's a clash of generations in terms of one particular, person for each
Mbappe
team.
versus Messi.
That's it exactly. It's the old the veteran, the grizzled old veteran in Lionel Messi going up against the young upstart in Mbappe.
To be fair, we'll do this in the next episode, but trying to even think of a combined 11 between the two parties, it's difficult, isn't it?
How much time have you got?
I was going to say.
Well, next episode we'll have a bit longer, obviously.
Well, maybe we can. Yeah, we've got the whole tournament to look at as of then. But go on then. Let's have it quickly. Score predictions and your winners in a France versus Argentina final. We'll come to Argentina versus Morocco in a second.
I'm going to say Argentina win on penalties. I think if it does go to penalties, that they've
Scoreline?
got the better shot stopper. I think 2-2 and
2-2 in a penalty shootout.
Desmond's and penalty shootout win for Argentina for me.
I think that'd be it'd be a great game.
It would.
Go on.
I'm really struggling, but I can't deny how well France have been, how good France have been. Knocking us out of the tournament, obviously, and the fact that they've just played so well, and the team just seems to flow really well. So I think it would be France who win, and I think it would be 2-1.
2-1 to France after
2-1
90
to
minutes
France.
or 120.
I'd say after 90 minutes. I do not think it'll go to extra time.
Again, I'm really struggling to call this particular. Let's say this is the final. We still don't know. We're still yet to watch France Morocco.
Imagine if Morocco do it.
Well, that's going to be my next question
That'll
for
be
you
the
actually. But with Argentina, let's say it is an Argentina-France World Cup final. I have absolutely no idea which way to call it. Both teams have attacking talent in spades. Watching the way France have gone forward, they are so clinical. They do not they had 2 clear chances against. Actually, to be fair, they only had 1 clear chance against us, and that was that Giroud goal. It was just he just got in front of Maguire, and it was a good header.
Yeah,
The
Tchouaméni goal, that was from nothing.
Wow.
That's a great strike from 25 yards along the floor, bottom corner, brilliant. They don't need a lot to take as much as they can get. France.
That's a good sign of a good team.
Argentina, I think, create more chances. Whether or not they take them as regularly as France do is up for contention. They proved last night that they certainly can, but then they proved against Saudi Arabia early in the tournament that there's days they have bad days.
Will that be dwelling on their mind?
I hope not, because I really want it to be a good game where both teams go tooth and nail. I think we've had a draw prediction and a penalty shootout, and we've had a France prediction. I'm gonna back Argentina to win it, and I'm gonna be a little bit optimistic and say we're gonna get a classic game and say 3-2.
Oh, lovely.
In the scenario of an Argentina versus Morocco final, which are words I can't believe I'm actually saying, but what are your score predictions?
I think Morocco do it.
No, really?
Yeah, honestly.
In an Argentina versus Morocco, you back Morocco, but you back Argentina over France.
You think about the journey that Morocco have been on. They faced sounds weird to say it, but they faced more difficult opponents. They faced Spain and Portugal.
I'd back Argentina over Spain and Portugal all day. The way they've played at this tournament, are you joking?
Not Spain and Argentina, Spain and
Portugal.
Spain
Argentina beat Spain and Portugal though. Argentina are a much tougher opponent. The way they've played in this World Cup, barring that Saudi Arabia blip, the way they've played in this tournament, I gave them a bit of shtick going into the round of 16 because obviously the Saudi Arabia game was the one that caught all the headlines, but they're back to their best, I think, now.
I think it's just it almost acted as a wake up call, didn't it, and a springboard for the rest of the tournament.
Well, if Argentina win it off the back of being inspired by the defeat to Saudi Arabia, they'll be buying them all Rolls Royces again.
Yeah.
But so you're backing Morocco in an Argentina Morocco final.
Yeah, I think so.
What score?
I'm going to say
1-0.
Yeah, it was actually going to be 1-0.
1-0 after extra time.
No, I think 1-0 in 90 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Matt,
yeah.
Argentina Morocco. Who would you back?
You know what? I think if Morocco can beat France, then I think they can definitely beat Argentina. I think because I'll back France against Argentina. I don't like doing it, but I think France are the better team, and I think if Morocco can beat the better team, I think Morocco can definitely beat Argentina.
So in an Argentina-Morocco final, you're also backing Morocco?
I am all yes.
Wow, right. I'm going to go against the grain then, and in an Argentina-Morocco final, I'm going to back Argentina. Yeah, all right, I know. It
would be nice to see the underdogs win, wouldn't it?
If Morocco get to the World Cup final and face Argentina, I will be rooting for Morocco. Yes. I will be. But if I'm thinking with my head over my heart, I mean, I've been thinking with my head over my heart of every game they've played. I'd have backed Spain, I'd have backed Portugal, and I'm backing France. Realistically, I think they should win. If they don't, then fair enough to Morocco. They've proven me wrong at every turn. But I feel like to win the World Cup from nothing, they've never even been close. This is the first time a team from their continent has got to the semi-final. They're not even in the final yet.
No.
For them to win the World Cup from, let's be honest, nowhere. Not one person has put money on this unless you're Moroccan and optimistic and have money to burn. For them to do that it would be incredible. I also think it's a little bit too fairy tale.
Maybe a bit too optimistic.
I'd say in an Argentina-Morocco final, it's a 2-0 win for Argentina.
However, okay. I also think you've got to think about the mentality of Morocco and how energised and ready they're going to be for the semi-final tonight. And obviously, if they make it to the final, it could just be the fact that their mentality gives them the extra edge. But it'll be such an exciting game. I can't wait for tonight.
Look, if they do it, and we'll certainly be watching.
Definitely.
Well, let's get the quiz on the go.
Oh, we've got a quiz, have we? Right then.
So, the way this one actually works...
Oh, God, here we go with your rules again.
Welcome to the quiz.
Right, we're not doing that. Do it properly, come on.
Well, in this segment of the quiz, one final quiz before...
In this segment of the quiz?
This whole
segment of the quiz, we're going to have one final quiz on the quiz. The
I was
World
trying
Cup
to think
Waffle
about...
quiz.
I had two things in my head.
Right, shall I do it for you?
Yeah.
So, in this section of the World Cup Waffle, we have seen that Jacob has provided us with a quiz.
Another
Jacob,
one?
Can you discuss the quiz?
So, question 1.
Oh, we go straight in?
We are.
Straight in.
Right,
mate.
so wait.
Same
hang on,
rules
what
as
is it?
always.
So, just, right. Well, I don't have buzzers, unfortunately, today, so...
Yeah,
It's going to be...
we're under a
Yeah,
quiz.
yeah.
What was notable about Hector Castro one of Uruguay's scorers in the final against Argentina in 1930? Was it A, the fact he was born in Argentina? B, part of his arm had been amputated? C, he was related to Fidel Castro? Or is it D, the World Cup final was his last game for Uruguay?
Fidel Castro. You sure you don't mean Fidel Castro, the Cuban dictator?
So different.
Nobody expected his name to pop up on the World Cup waffle. Right.
Okay.
Is it that he was Argentinian by birth?
Did he have an?
I've provided my answer. Oi, listen.
Yeah, what's it? I'm waiting for Matt to lock
Did
in
he
an
have
answer.
it? What was the one about the arm?
Amputated arm.
Did he have an amputated arm?
Yeah.
No way.
There you go.
Well, 1-0 to Matt then.
Yay.
In 1934, which country became the first from Africa to compete in a World Cup final?
In the World Cup, that's the tournament, not the final itself. Right.
Yeah.
1934.
Do we have
Yeah.
options?
Is it A, Egypt, B, Morocco, C, Tunisia, or D, Algeria?
Algeria.
I'll go for what was the other ones? Options?
Egypt, Morocco,
I'll go for Egypt.
or Tunisia.
I'll go for Egypt.
You're correct.
Thank you.
I'm 2-0 down. What's going on? Right, this is
This
great
is
fun.
terrible.
Right, go on.
Don't
Is the next question about the 1938 World
Jay,
Cup?
you know what
No,
it
no.
is?
Right,
It's because
think
I was born in the 1930s.
Look like it.
You
Anyway.
remember that?
What? Oh my god.
What's it?
Right. So in 1970, what feat did Pele achieve?
Really? You didn't know what the word
You know what I mean?
FEAT
You know
is in
the player
No, I
feats.
thought it was like feature or something.
No,
like,
feat as in.
Okay.
What
As in
did he
like
achieve?
an incredible feat, right? What did he
Okay,
achieve?
right,
Okay,
right. Do the
so,
question.
so 1970, what feat did Pele achieve? He remains the only player to do this to this day as well. Is it
I was
A,
going to say multiple choice.
the only Brazilian to win the Golden Boot? B, most assists by any player in the World Cup history? He scored in every match, or is it? Is it C? He scored in every match, or is it D? The only player to win 3 World Cups?
D. He's the only player to win 3 World Cups.
A.
Finally, Jay's on the board.
Thank God for that. Yeah, he is the only player to. That's well known. That right? Yeah. I in my head I was like, did Brazil win it in 1970?
That's how I was thinking. I wasn't sure.
I knew this one actually. So 1974, who was the English referee in the final between Netherlands and West Germany? Is it Ken?
How do you know this?
I don't
He's
know.
a referee.
You
isn't he?
referee nerd.
Is it A, Ken Ashton? Is it B, Norman Buttonshaw? Or is it C, Arthur Ellis? Or is it D, Jack Taylor?
A.
Okay.
I'm guessing it's D. Jack Taylor.
Correct, Amonde. It's Desmond's.
That was me. I'm correct.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. So it's 2-2. Right. Okay.
Okay, so in 1978, how many players in the Argentina squad went to play club football in England? Is it A1? Is it B3? Is it C5? Or is it D7?
In 1970, how many of them were playing in England or went to
on
as a result?
Went on as a result.
I will go for
I'm
B.
going to say B3.
B.
Both going B.
Hmm.
Well, you're both correct.
2 of them went to Spurs, Ricky Villa and Ozzy Ardiles.
Those are the ones I was thinking.
Yeah,
of.
exactly. I knew it was at least 2, so I assume there was one more in there.
Ooh, here we go.
Some kid went to Sheffield United probably or
So
something.
in 1990, this tournament had the lowest goals per game ratio. What was it? Is it A, 1.9, B, 2.2, C, 2.5, or is it D, 2.9?
2.2.
That's a 2.5.
Well, one of you is correct. But it's Jay takes the lead for the first time.
Damn.
Well, I'll ask you a couple more just in case Matt actually levels the game up.
Go on then, 2 more.
In 2006, how many countries made their World Cup debuts in Germany? Is it A2, B4, C6, or D8?
I'm going for B4.
Say it'd be so easy for me to say that because that's what I was thinking. So I'm going to say 2 then. That's
Neither of you correct. It's 6.
6
Oh, wow.
fresh, 6 new teams in the World Cup. Wow, that's interesting. Okay.
So it's Angela,
Who's she?
Angela,
Angola.
sorry. Ghana, Ivory Coast, Trinidad, and Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Sorry,
Trinidad and Tobago are the country.
and Tobago, Togo, and Ukraine.
Cool.
Ukraine made the World Cup debut in 2006. Wow, that's
Apparently.
surprising actually. I thought they'd have been there earlier.
Here we go. So in 2010, Spain's victory in South Africa set which record? A, they won all 4 knockout matches by the same result. B, the only champions to lose their first match. C, fewest goals scored by a champion. D, fewest number of individual goal scorers. Or E, all of the above.
I feel like
Surely not all of the above. Although I feel like that
They
wouldn't be an
have to
option.
put
If,
that- yeah,
I was gonna say, I
they've
feel
just
like
put that in,
surely
haven't
that's
they?
not a red herring. Like, why would they do that if it's a red herring?
no, I wouldn't. I'd go for D.
I'm gonna guess E. Sod it. It's
You're
in
going to
there.
go for D, fewest number of individuals.
Oh no. Oh, is that what D was? No.
Yeah.
What was the one?
Where all
Fewest
of the
goals
above.
scored by fewest
No,
goals scored
fewest
by
goals scored.
a winner. I'm gonna say E. All of the above. I feel like it wouldn't be in there if it wasn't.
Game, set, and the match.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So that
all
was
of
for
the
me
above.
then. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to prepare
Should've
this
gone-
quiz a little bit better
should've
next
gone for
time
that.
because this is going to be choppy as out. Because
I searched up the same quiz that I found yesterday, and it wouldn't load.
should have just saved it, and you should have saved it in your Google window. I dread to think what else
Should
is
have.
in there.
Oh, cheeky.
Ages of all the footballers in the world, apparently.
Well, yeah, Koulibaly, James Madison,
Livakovic.
Livakovic.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, we've gone. we've waffled on for long enough. I think on this episode of
But at
the
least
World
we've
Cup
said
Waffle.
we've said on. I suppose it says what it is on the tin, doesn't it?
I
The
feel,
World Cup Waffle.
I feel like we're really in for an exciting couple of days. Well, I say a couple of days. 'cause
I'm
the
not. I've
fi-
got to
the
finish
fi-
off my assignments.
The finals on Sunday.
Ah,
the finals
sucks
on
to be you.
Sunday. So, but
Yeah.
I think we're in for an exciting end to the World Cup.
Well-
I really can't wait.
Yeah, recording this on the Wednesday before the World Cup final. We've already seen Argentina and Croatia go at it for a place in the final. Argentina will face one of France or Morocco on Sunday in the World Cup final. There's also the third place game for whoever loses that match going up against Croatia. Still plenty of football to look forward to and plenty for us to waffle on about in the final episode of the World Cup Waffle
Indeed.
the post World Cup Waffle. And we'll have to see what we do after that going forward. Looking at the badge on your shirt for no particular reason. Shout out to Family FC. I'm
Shout
sure
out.
they'll like that one.
Definitely.
But thank you very much for joining us for this episode of the World Cup Waffle. Thank you very much, Matt and Jacob, for joining me as always.
Pleasure as always.
Pleasure. It's great to be here.
And with nothing left to say, I think that's goodbye from me.
And that's goodbye from me.
And that's goodbye from me.